weaving in ends when changing yarns. I've just finished knitting this white section and I'm about to start with the red. I take the old yarn, put it over the needle toward me and to the left. I take the new yarn and leaving a 5 or 6 inch tail, I knit the first stitch. Now I'm going to take that old yarn and weave it behind the knitting into the first row. So I take my needle into the stitch, go under the old yarn, pick up the new yarn, making sure I don't bring the old yarn in with it, and I do a knit stitch. Now this old yarn is hanging out over top of the new yarn. For the next stitch, I just do a regular stitch over the old yarn. For the next stitch, I do a knit stitch under the old yarn, and then over the old yarn. I would do that for several more stitches if I had them, but I'm not going to weave in that last stitch. And now I can cut off my old yarn. I would leave about a 1/2 inch. And once it's blocked, I would trim anything that's left there. Then I knit back, or I purl back, but in this case, because it's garter stitch, I knit back. And next I'm going to work in the new yarn. It's important to do it in this order, because if you knit the new yarn in first and then the old yarn, you would be knitting in the old yarn on top of the new yarn and vice versa, and it would show. So now we're back at row 3 of the new yarn. We take the tail end, bring it over the needle, knit that first stitch without doing anything, then we go into the second stitch under the tail, pick up the working yarn, go under the tail yarn and through that stitch. The next stitch is just a plain knit stitch with that yarn underneath the stitch. Next we go into the stitch under the tail yarn, pick up the working yarn, bring it through, and then again. And again, if I had more stitches, I would weave that in a little bit more. And on the front you can't see anything, and on the back you can see a little bit. So what you might want to do is take your yarn, stretch it, stretch the whole thing, and that'll bring this, it'll sort of even everything out. And then I can cut off and leave a 1/2 inch. And once it's all blocked, I can cut off any excess there. And that's how I weave in ends when changing colors. Hope this helps.